my God.
If you guys are
here
going
we
to trash
go.
talk each other, I'm hitting record.
Here we go.
I don't know what I'll do with it, but I'm going to have it recorded.
That's okay. We got the Dave the Wolverine Marsteller with us here. All right, are we going?
I've been in dogs since 1991. We breed dogs that we want to train. I was out here in western Nebraska riding Harleys and training dogs. I don't sugarcoat anything, and if you don't like it, tough.
Welcome to another episode of the Flatlander Kennels podcast with Chris Jobman. This is the first time we've had second time we've had multiple guests. We're having Rhett Riddle come back.
Hey guys.
He got rave reviews and people been in Chris's ear to get him back on the podcast. So he's with us, and I think third time guest Dave Marsteller. So how are you guys? How are you doing, Rhett and Dave?
Doing good.
We are good.
Yep. Glad to be here. It's an honor to be on here with Dave Marsteller. An honor.
Yeah. He's sporting some new facial hair.
Rhett, you need to raise your expectations of your life if you're just an honor to be on here with Dave Marsteller.
Come on, man.
You need to raise that.
I hear you.
He's basically sitting on my lap right now. It's a weird thing.
I see him.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast.
So before we do get this kicked off, I want to let everyone know, as soon as you're done listening to this, we have started a Flatlander Kennels Instagram account. It's the Flatlander Kennels podcast. Going over there where we are releasing short video reels of each episode. I don't know, somewhere between 2 and 5 a week. So go and check us out over there, and the Facebook group, as always, Flatlander Kennels podcast with Chris Jobman. All right, Chris, take it away.
Well, welcome everybody. Dave's at my house, and we're basically almost sitting on each other's lap. It's kind of weird, but Rhett, thanks for joining us. My good friend, buddy Rhett Riddle from Bay Creek Kennels is here. Dave Marsteller from DJ's Labs is here. Rhett, you've been a pretty good guest. Everybody, are you paying people to hey, make sure Rhett gets on the podcast where we want to listen to him more? Are you paying people to do that? It's nonstop. We should just make this the Chris and Rhett show, I guess, or just the Rhett show. Rhett and Elliott.
I'll just pass it off. I'll just produce it. You guys just go.
No. If anybody's leaving, I'm leaving.
I'll come up with a little jingle for the Rhett and Chris show, or Chris and Rhett, whichever. We'll do a little jingle.
That's the jingle.
That's the truth.
But no, let's do this. So we have a really good question from Jeff Sweeney. I thought this would be a good podcast, and so did he, and he put that on there. And so I'm going to get different perspectives from Mr. Rhett Riddle out there, and we're going to do Dave Marsteller's the amateur. He judges a lot at HRC and AKC stuff. Now, he is such an HRC guy. Look at what he's wearing. Look, everybody.
He's all camoed out.
He is in camo. I mean, you don't know when the mustache starts and stops with the camo. It all kind of blends in. It's just kind of a weird deal. But Jeff's got a really good question. We're going to get Rhett's point of view on it, my point of view on it, and then Dave's point of view on it from the judge's chair. So go ahead and read Jeff's question, and we'll go from there.
Jeff Sweeney's comment or / question on handling. He says there's lots of series from the podcast about training of dogs. I'd like to hear a full podcast just on handling, how to grow as a handler, team player, etc. I'd like to hear things Chris notices of other handlers' downfalls and what he sees or looks for in a great handler. How can a handler help at marking or reading a blind at a test? Just a full rundown on developing a handler. I think the higher title you are trying for, that it becomes more on the handler.
Okay. I actually don't think the higher the title you get, the more it becomes on the handler. But I think, honestly, and we'll get into this whole question, but just pops in my head, and Rhett can get in there too. But I think the higher the title you have, you're going to have a better dog. So I think, honestly, I don't think, I mean, the handler is a huge deal at the Grand and the National and all that stuff. I get that. But I think a really good handler is more important in season and senior and stuff like that, where you got young dogs that don't know what they're doing. I think it takes a really good handler to pass those dogs because you have no idea what they're going to do, where they're going to shoot off, or what they're going to do. And the Grand and the National, that sort of master dog, HRCH, you kind of know what they're going to do because you've been training them for so long. But I think that a really good handler is super important in season and senior. What do you think, Rhett?
Oh yeah, I mean it's important to be a good handler, whether you're running a puppy stake or a derby or a national. It doesn't matter, in any of the above. But I was gonna say, bring this up kind of early in this. I feel like I have an interesting viewpoint on this that goes all the way back to my training bomb dog days, because when I was doing bomb dogs, that was kind of my big thing was handler training. When I first got started with it, doing the bomb dog training, I was training dogs, and I thought I was there just to train dogs, and I learned pretty quick that that was only part of what we were doing, because the handler training was more important to our whole puzzle than even the training of the dogs was, because obviously, no matter how good that dog was that we trained, that handler that went over to Afghanistan with that dog was only as good as we made them a team. So everything we did building the foundation with them on learning together and working as a team is what made them successful later when we sent them over to Afghanistan. So, we did a lot of team building drills, a lot of wagon wheel, a lot of casting drills, things that just got the
You're
dogs.
really good at the wagon wheel.
Yeah,
You're really good at the wagon wheel. That advanced wagon wheel dog Waylon was incredible. That was an incredible display of training right there.
I was trying not to get to that early, Chris, but we'll get into that later. But anyways, so that was what I ended up doing was the head of the handler training for the program. So it was a super big deal for me, all through that, and that's carried over to what we do with retrievers, because obviously as a pro, for us, the importance of teaching the owner to handle their dog is bigger than anything. So, but
kind of harder too.
Oh yeah, no question about it. No question about it. But like I say, it all starts early with getting them on the same page and building the team up, and then that's what makes them successful down the road, whether it be in the younger stakes or competing at the higher level. So
yeah, I agree. It's the owner part and the handler part is harder than the dog part, no doubt about that. I mean, I've been working with Dave now for years, and it's like beating your head against a brick wall.
It's frustrating. I've been there.
Frustrating is really not the word. You're doing good, Dave. Good job. Keep it up. But so so I think he wants to talk about, like, as a handler. So to me, the handler is a huge part of the entire equation. That all starts at the truck at a test, and you get these high-powered dogs, like the Reeds of the world or the Flashes or whoever it is, and like Dave's dog Cash. That all starts at the truck, and that obedience and that teamwork all starts when you get him out of the truck or her out of the truck and set them down and put the lead around them, let them air. That all starts at the truck. We can go to the holding blind. If your dog comes out of the truck as a wild-ass maniac, you open the door, they fly out of the truck, you know what you're going to get at that test. And those dogs that are really wound up, I think you have to have a routine coming out of the truck. And I don't know if Jeff wants to talk about that, but to me as a handler, you control that dog's everything that dog does. When time you get out of the truck, time you run the test, time you get back in the truck. As a handler, that how you handle that will also a lot of times carry over to how that dog runs that test.
Yeah, most definitely.
Dave hasn't talked yet. He's wanting to get after it here.
Not at all.
He's been wanting to get after it. So as an amateur, Dave, do you have a routine that you go through, like when you get out of the truck, or does it just do you not worry about it? To me, I got a routine, and every single dog is a little bit different, but I try to establish control, right away when they come out of the truck.
I'm trying to get a routine down, but it's hit or miss at this point. Just due to training after work, and you feel rushed when you get out there. You've worked 8-9 hours a day. You got a couple hours to get the dogs worked, so it just kills you when you just don't follow through with a trusted routine, the cadence of what you've seen. But if you can follow a good pro or your pro's cadence, it'll help you a lot.
Can you explain what you mean by that, Dave? Cadence?
Well, like Chris mentioned, it's some trainers put the collar on while the dog's still in the box. Some trainers wait until the first holding blind to put the collar on. So the dog's relaxed, goes in airs, that type of thing. Doing the same thing consistently every day is the cadence of loading the dogs, arriving, unloading the dog that you're running. When do you put the collar on? Do you let it free air? Do you let it air with the collar on? Like I said, some pros I've seen wait until the first holding blind, and then they'll strap the dog up and run to line, go the line consistently all the time. Monitor your steps. Don't run the line. Don't crawl to the line. Just every day do
exactly
the same exact
thing
thing
every single time. That's important.
That is, I think it sets the stage for that day's training. Dog dependent, of course. There's Cash. He needs a little bit of juice, whether it be obedience, whether it be, making him comply with what, how you're driving the bus versus how he wants to drive the bus, that type of thing. And then I've got a couple females that they just pretty obedient, walk to the line. They don't take a whole lot of thought.
I think a good handler, when I see a good handler at a test, and whether it's an amateur or a pro, they're very methodical, and everything they do is very thought out. Like, they get the dog out the same. Everything's the same, and they're not rushing up there. They're fast is just fast out of control. Smooth to me is smooth as fast, and I think the smoother you are as a handler, the better off you're going to be. And as a handler, you know what each dog needs to do well at a test. So, like Shaker, just for instance, Shaker and Preacher Tracy, they run better. If I got that, you guys have seen that on the Facebook page, that little ball that I have, I throw around for them. They run better if I start their engine with that ball. And so, as a handler, you got to put your ego aside and be like, okay, this is the dog needs a fun little ball to chase around, get his blood pumping, and he tries a little harder. And you got to be able to put your ego away as a handler to recognize what that individual dog needs. And don't, oh, my dog doesn't need that. He's going to go do the work no matter what. Well, he may not. So do whatever it needs. And the better handlers that I see watch what everybody else is doing. So what I mean by that is, let's just say you got a pro there running 20 dogs a master, and you're a young pro or you're an amateur, you only got a couple dogs in it. A lot of these people are sitting in the truck on their phone, checking in on Facebook, Instagram, whatever they're doing. Well, in all reality, a good handler would sit there and watch every dog run and watch the good pro that's there and figure out, where the pitfalls of the test are at, instead of just being, sitting in your truck and just with your head in the sand. I think a good handler observes other handlers as well. Rhett?
Oh yeah, no, that's 100% true. I mean, like you said, when we run a bunch of dogs, by the by the 10th dog we've run, we've learned so much about the test and learned every little in and out of it. Well, what we've learned, everybody else could be learning just the same by watching every dog run. That makes all the difference in the world. I tell everybody that that uh, even whenever we're training, if you're out there throwing birds, you should be watching every single dog because you're learning something from that dog. Watch the handler. Watch where they're stopping the dog. Watch where they're casting. Is it a verbal? Is it a silent cast? Are you getting a change of direction whenever you need it? Did you drive the dog through that area? Look and see what they did, why they did it. Now every dog's going to be different, how they respond to that specific handler in that situation, but you've got to learn from everything you see. Like y'all were talking about a minute ago, having a routine, you getting out of the truck and doing the same exact thing when you go up there, being cool, calm, and collective. Not getting stressed out, not letting things overwhelm you, and just staying focused on what you're doing. Being calm is the biggest part of being a handler, and making decisions immediately when they need to be made, off of what's happening and not off of emotion. Worst thing you can do is get emotional at a test and let your emotions make your decision for you. You have to stay calm.
A good handler also, whether pro or amateur, has a plan when they go to the test. Have a plan. So hopefully you can talk to people. Hey, ask questions like, hey, why are the dogs doing that? Which way are they going? Yada yada yada. But you got to have a plan. So if your dog does this, you have a plan to do this. Don't just go up there and say, okay, we're just gonna go for it. Let's just see what happens. Hope for the best. Have a plan. And the one thing as a handler, you don't do at a test is panic. It may not be going as well as you like it to go, but if you start panicking and flailing around and yelling and screaming and that sort of thing, it really looks bad. And the judges, it may not look as bad as you think it does to the judges, but if you start panicking and you look out of control, it makes your dog look out of control as well. And the judge is like, they're all out of control, they're done. And it may not have been as bad as you think, but if you make it look bad, it's going to be bad. So if it's going bad, just stand up there like that's how you wanted it to go, and then just react what the dog does. You react and try to help the dog as much as you possibly can. Dave, as a judge, hit on that a little bit when it's not going well and the handler is panicking a little bit. What does that look like from the judge's chair?
It's definitely a sped up. Yeah, it's definitely a sped up process. You can see where the nerve, and I'm guilty as charged. I'm not talking like I don't often do this, but there's been some trainers that have gotten into me, and we won't mention our name from Texas, but I have to count to 5 before I cast my dog in a test, because if things start going rough, I'm just rattling off casts, and pretty soon the dog's like, where in the hell do you want me to go? So speed is one thing that we do see sitting behind handlers, is when the casts start going wrong or the cast isn't taken properly, then the whistle gets faster, the casting gets faster, and then the whistle gets faster, and then pretty soon it's over. It's a train wreck. So if you watch the good pros, like Rhett said, just study them. It's a live seminar that you're looking at. The pros will just take their time. If things go wrong, don't give the same cast 5 times if you haven't gotten it the first time. You won't see a pro give the same cast 5 times in a test. If they don't get the cast they need, they change something up. They add a step. They give it more of an angle. They give a stronger whistle sit. That kind of stuff. Just watch that, and that'll help you slow down and stay focused. And again, in your head, before you cast, if you don't have a dog that's auto cast on you, a good 5-second count will do a lot of benefit for you.
And to get back on that, what he just said, there's nothing wrong as you're a judge, Dave. So I'm gonna put you on the spot right here. Let's just say you have a dog that's kind of autocasty, or you're speeding up really fast, and the dog is speeding up with you, and it's a train wreck. And as a handler, you recognize it. So let's just say you're running a blind retrieve, and the dog is autocast at one time because you're getting fast, the dog's getting fast, it's turning into a train wreck, and you blow the sit whistle. Is there anything wrong as a judge? If the dog is already sitting, did not stop a sit whistle, is there anything wrong as a judge, as a handler, to like blow the sit whistle again, then blow the sit whistle again? And the reason why I say that is because you're slowing down the dog. All that crappy momentum and compulsiveness that they have and that you have as a handler, you're making yourself slow down by making multiple sit whistles when the dog is already sitting. And so now you're trying to slow down the train wreck. You're trying to slow down the dog. You're trying to slow yourself down. And as a handler, you need to recognize that. If you fail because of that, you fail because of that. You were going to fail no matter what, the way you were going anyway. So as a handler, stop the dog, maybe a couple sit whistles to make sure it doesn't autocast, and then just wait him out, and then you proceed at your pace. As a judge, how do you look at that as a judge? Multiple sit whistles, the dog's already sitting, to try to get him back under control.
As a judge, I personally don't have a problem with that. Now, I can't speak for my co-judge, but together we will discuss it.
But what's the fault?
That's why I say I don't have a problem with it.
There's no fault. The dog's already sitting, right, Rhett? I mean, what do you think? What's the fault?
I don't think there's one. Me personally, I would rather see that than people call a dog back in and stop them, which you see a lot in HRC because it is okay to break their momentum, bring them back in, and then cast them. But I would rather see that personally, and that's more what we do on the AKC side of things because we're not allowed to bring them back to us like we can in an HRC test.
So that constant sit whistle, it's used for two or three things, Rhett, and you agree or disagree, but it lets the handler get back into position. Because pretty soon before you know it, some handlers are past the ribbons, past the buckets, and they're just out there flailing. So give it a sit whistle, take a couple steps back so the dog doesn't autocast off your momentum or your movement. Give another sit whistle and get that handler back into the playing field. That's one use for that constant sit whistle. Another time is if the dog did cast and it's behind cover and the handler needs to go find it, you can use it there to keep that dog in place. So as a judge, I understand what's happening, and I'm not going to fault a dog for sitting on a sit whistle and then getting another sit whistle blown and the dog didn't move. So it's a handling tool to establish control, and like Chris said, slow your run down.
Yeah, try to stop the bleeding, and even if you don't pass, let's just say you do that, you stop the bleeding. Even if you don't pass, you're teaching yourself to slow down. You're teaching the dog to slow down too. And you may not pass, but you've ran a lot better tests and a lot smoother tests. And the dog the dog and you get something out of it because it just wasn't cast, win the blind, and you're out. You're actually doing a little bit of training for yourself and for the dog at the test. I think that's a major deal.
Dave, can I ask you a question from a judge that, as being a judge, I'm curious about? One thing I've noticed the difference in a pro handler and most amateur handlers is pros have a cool confidence when they're handling. It's like it's just another day
Some
at
of them.
hunt test. Well, right. But amateurs,
pros,
you can
I
see
watched
it.
some pros lose their first dog and lose their whole truck. So
Well, you got to think of the pros
Careful,
that
you're
I'm
writing your
focused
check,
on. Think of the pros I'm focused on. But there's generally a cool confidence in everything that they're doing. Where if you see an amateur, typically you can just feel the tension in how they walk and their body language and everything. Well, I was at a hunt test and Eric Tizon was watching me and he was critiquing me and I was asking to be brutally honest. And I was up there and the judge made I had like a leash just barely hanging in my pocket, and he reprimanded me about it. And Eric said the whole reason he's nitpicking you is because he sees your nervousness, he sees your hesitation, and so it's causing him to be a little bit critical about things. He would never have mentioned that to like a pro trainer. Do you find a handler's demeanor makes a difference, and you have to catch yourself like maybe being a little more critical of them just based on their demeanor on the line?
In certain situations, yes. It's a game, and there are some handlers that will push the limit to little things, and so
like explain that.
Like not concealing your lead. There's a handler that likes to wear their lead on their head, and it's just like, come on, dude, don't do this to it. Don't start our test off like this. Just follow the rules and you're good. But I think this is my opinion only, but I think it's the difference between Rhett and Chris running 20 dogs, 30 dogs and training every day. They get to a test. It's not Saturday at the test. It's, God, is it Monday again? Because I'm running the same 30 dogs at this test. For us amateurs, it's our only dog. It's
right.
The one that just came off the couch with us. It's the one that, was under our feet when we made breakfast that morning. And
it's a huge deal.
It's all your work, all that week's work of blood, sweat, and tears after our normal day-to-day job is on the line. And we see something in the test that might be the Achilles heel to our dog. So then we start worrying about, is our dog going to fall into that trap that the judge set up? So I think that's where the anxiety of an amateur gets built versus, just a day-to-day job of a pro that's been doing this for 20 years, and he's worked hundreds of thousands of dogs versus our 4 to 5 in our lifetime.
And there's not as much self-doubt in most pros, I would think, than amateurs do. You're going up there, at least for amateurs that haven't done it much. I'm sure there's lots of really good seasoned amateurs.
To expand on your amateur talk, I think too many amateurs take their dog too personal. And what I mean by, and Rhett can probably attest to this, and chime in, Rhett, when I'm done. But these amateurs and or young pros, they're there to think they're trying to impress people. And they're like, oh my God, my dog embarrassed me. I'm going to tell you guys, nobody gives a damn about how your dog did. And nobody sits in the gallery and goes, oh my God, Dave Marsteller's dogs are terrible. Nobody says that. Everybody should be worried about their own thing. And amateurs, they get embarrassed by their dog not doing well. Nobody cares. I mean, nobody cares because we're there worried about our own stuff. And I think once you get past that peer pressure or you're worried about whatever somebody else thinks, I think you're going to be a better handler because what you'll do is you'll put your ego down and you'll start asking questions. Hey, where like Dave said, the pitfalls of the test. If you watch the dogs run or ask a good pro, hey, where's the pitfall of this? I'm new to this, or I'm not quite sure about it. Where's the pitfall? And they're going to answer you. They're going to answer you. So I think you put your ego away and not worry about being quote unquote embarrassed. I think you run smoother and easier, and just worry about you and your dog. Don't even worry about the judges behind you. Just worry about you and your dog. Attack the test. Attack the blind and move on. If you start worrying about what everybody else is thinking, you're already beat. You're already done. Rhett?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no question. I mean, that's a big thing. Everybody wants to pass, and everybody wants everybody to think that their dog is the best, and they want their dog to be the best. But I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We're not, in hunt tests, we're not competing against each other. We're going at a standard. I mean, obviously, field trials are different. And if you've got a competitive nature, field trials are a good place to be. Hunt tests are there for us to pass a standard. But, you just have to go into handling with an open, clear mind, and you have to be able to go in and not worry about, is my dog going to beat me to the bucket today because that's what he did last test. You have to have confidence in yourself for the amount of work you've put in and go in and know that you couldn't have done anything else. You have to remember that, this is just this is an animal. They're a dog. I mean, we know what dogs will do. Dogs will be dogs, and we can't control everything. And they're gonna make mistakes just like we make mistakes. And you have to go in with that mindset. And then something does pop up in a test, learn from it, and then the next test, try and make yourself better from it. That's what you have to do every time. Just learn from it. So
Yeah, and that's a big deal, and it's I think, and Dave, you think about this, Elliot, you think about this, Rhett, you think about this. I think what the number one fault I think I see at handlers at a test. I think the number one fault I see, whether it's handlers at a test or in a training situation, I think their whistle timing and their timing of the whistle is absolutely terrible. As a good handler needs to see. It's hard to explain, but you've got to see what the dog's about to do. You've got to, lead the dog. What I mean by that is like you're blowing a whistle and then the dog's running, you blow the whistle, they got to stop, and you have to lead the dog. Don't stop the dog where you think don't blow the whistle where you think you need to stop. Blow it before that spot so that when they do finally get shut down, they're in a good position to be handled. I think people's timing is absolutely terrible. That's probably the number one thing I see as a handler fault is timing.
yeah, I wanted to touch on that a little bit because I was thinking about that as far as being a handler and how important being able to read a dog is. I mean that is everything that is the basis of being a good handler is being able to communicate with your dog, read what they're thinking, read what they're about to do. I'll use this as an example. I remember we were running, I think it was the fourth series at Old South, and I had gotten a rerun with Remy, and I about blew it on the blind. And I mean, how many hundreds of blinds have I run with Remy before, and I know what her downfalls can be and all, and I about lost her right at the end of the blind. And if I would have stopped her 1 second earlier, she'd have been one cast and would have been on it. And I think I ended up with 3 or 4 whistles right at the end of it. And I think she needed twos to get through that series, and I thought I'd blown it. And, I remember the first thing you said to me was, you have to notice that lead change. As soon as you notice lead
Here
change,
we go with the lead changes. That's a whole other stuff.
no, I mean it's true, but that's part of being a good handler. As soon as you notice that, I should have blown the whistle and put her on it. Instead, I let her ride it out. Even though I saw, her body change and her start to fade in to that suction. I didn't make the right call at the right time, and that could have been, the whole grand came down to that one whistle that I made, in that fourth series. So, being on top of things, watching every single bit of body language that your dog is making is what makes you make the right decisions at the right time.
100%. I think, and so you brought it up. Let's Dave. Before we get to the lead change, Dave, what do you think?
That is something that Chris always works on me with. I'm always late reading the lane or the lead change, and but once you see it and once you understand it, and once, man, you can't be thinking about mom or the date or work or anything. When that dog is running away from you, you need to watch those shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
Where's that lead at?
When you guys need to explain what lead change means for people that don't know.
All right. So
get in your horsey, Steve.
I come from the horse world, and horses and dogs and whatever, any two-legged animal has a lead. And let's just say you're running a blind retrieve, and let's just say the wind is coming right to left really hard, 20 miles an hour. And when the dog is running, their lead is, so say they're in the right lead. That means their right front leg is reaching out farther than their left front leg. And that means, so the wind is coming right to left, and they're in the right lead, so their front right leg is reaching out farther than their left. When they're in that lead, that means they're fighting that wind. They're leaned into that wind. That means they're kind of going right. They're going in that direction right. They're fighting the factor. The second you see them as a handler, this is where Dave's little cheat sheet here says, stay engaged, not a spectator sport. Watch the head and shoulders of the dog. And what he means by that is, so he's in the right lead, the dog's in the right lead, he's fighting the right to left crosswind, doing a great job. The second you see that dog switch to its left lead, which means the left leg is going out in front of the right, that dog, and that very instant, that dog is given into the factor. And that dog is telling you that it is going to the left. It is going to give into the factor of the wind, and now it's going to go left. The second you see that, as a handler, you better blow the whistle immediately and change that dog's mind. Because if you wait, and Rhett has seen it 1,000 times, Dave's seen it 1,000 times, you wait 2 seconds, that dog is completely out of line, completely offline, especially if the dog, and 9 times out of 10, if the wind's coming from the right at 20 miles an hour, they're just like a human being. 9 times out of 10, if they switch their left lead and you blow that whistle, they're going to turn to the left. Because they're just like human beings. They don't want to turn into the wind. Right? So they're in the left lead. The wind's pushing them left. The second you blow that whistle, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, that dog is going to turn to the left because the wind is so strong to its right. Now you've waited 5 seconds too late, 2 seconds too late. Now your dog, instead of being 2 feet offline, is 20 feet offline. And then it turns to the left. Now it's 15 yards offline. And good luck getting that cast back up into the wind. You're probably done. So as a handler, like Rhett just said about Rami, if he'd have recognized that quicker, there wouldn't even been it'd have been done. The dog would have been perfect, twos, and she was fine anyway. But as a handler, if you don't recognize that lead change, that dog is going to tell you where they're going with their lead. 100%.
So in order for a dog to veer left, it's always going to be leading with its left leg. If it's veering right,
imagine
always
a
going
horse
to be leading with its right.
Yeah. So imagine a horse running in a circle. Imagine the horse, and Rhett's a horse guy now, but he's a mule guy. He rides a mule. Right? Rhett's a mule guy.
True story.
So imagine Rhett's mule running left in a circle. That horse is going to be in the left lead, reaching out running left in a circle. And then when it goes to the right, it's going to change its lead to the right to go to the right. That's how they run, and dogs run the same exact way.
So it's almost putting a little more weight on that leg.
Correct. So you heard the term dog tracking. You know what I'm talking about? You know how a dog tracks. They don't run. Some dogs don't run perfectly straight. They kind of run they kind of run it at you see what I'm talking about?
With their butt out. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't run perfectly straight. Well, when they do that, it'll tell you the lead that they're in. So if they're tracking to the right, they're going to be in the right lead. If they're tracking to the left, they're going to be in the left lead. And as a handler, if you're paying attention, the second that dog hits its left lead with a right to left crosswind, you better blow the whistle or you are in big, big trouble.
And are you watching shoulder blades?
Right. What's that?
Are you watching shoulder blades to see that if the dog's running straight away, or how are you identifying? You can just
shoulder blade to the head, shoulder blade up to the head. You'll be able to see it if you watch enough. You'll be able to see it. And Dave trains every week with me, and he's coming here for 2 weeks, 2 days now, starting tonight. And every time he trains, he'll ask me, "What leads that dog in?" We talk about it all the time. It comes up all the time. And as a handler, a lot of times some of your dogs turn the one way all the time, but a lot of dogs are two-way turners, especially if the wind's blowing hard. And as a handler, you need to know which way they turn as well. So I do this all the time to Tiffany and Dave or whoever's here training. I'll be like, "Hey, which way does Maddie turn on?" She said, "Whistle." I asked her, "Which way does Maddie turn?" She's like, You should know that instantly. As a handler with one or two dogs, you should know exactly which way your dog turns all the single time. Now, they may turn two different ways, okay? Why are they turning 2 different ways? Why is it 1 second to the right turn? Why is 1 second to the left turn? And it took me a little while to figure this out, but I did years ago. But just for instance, I got a dog named Pearl. Great dog. She's almost retired. This is who really taught me about, like 10 years ago, I found this out with her. If she's in the right lead I blow the sit whistle, she turns to the right. If she's in the left lead, I blow the sit whistle, she turns to the left. Every single time. Every time. Flash turns to the right almost 99% of the time. But as a handler, you need to know why they're changing leads and why they're turning the way they're turning, so that way you understand when you're going into a test what's happening. So that's the lead. Leads are hard. Once you figure out how to read them, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Rhett,
Dave, how much work did it take you, Dave, to be able to get to the point where you're automatically seeing it, or are you still in that process? How hard has it been for you to get to that point?
I'm not close yet, Elliot. I've got my two girls both turn left on the sit, and so I am that guy that Chris talked about. I missed the whistle, and pretty soon she's already left. The wind's pushing her, and now she sits left. I'm 20 yards out. I cannot get that cast back into the wind. So that was slow whistle, slow timing, slow everything. And I'm thankful that I got somebody that's not scared to raise his voice at me and remind me when I do have those faults, because it does help. It does make you a better handler to get corrected like that.
What, Rhett, you're laughing?
The only reason why Dave knows what direction his two females turns is because he has it in his notes right there, I promise.
But you know what? As a good handler, you should.
You should.
Like
That's
when I run the
exactly
grand
right.
or the national, say $20, $25, however many we got, I look at my notes on my phone, and it'll say, you know, it'll have every tendency of every single dog that I'm running, and I'll write down or put in my notes on which way they turn. So it's hard to remember that, and I have them written down on all of them.
Oh yeah, I always. I mean, I try and do it all the time, just because we're running tests, you know, year round, obviously. But leading up to the grand and the national, I mean, I keep detailed notes on each one, turning left, right. Do they turn into the shore on a down the shore blind, or they turn out? I mean, all that stuff is stuff I like to remind myself of over and over again, and just keep that fresh in my mind.
That's a great point, Rhett. On which way does the dog turn on the down the shore water blind? Like all that stuff as a handler, that's awesome to know. And a good pro, a lot of them good pros keep very detailed notes on their dogs. Like they understand, because our job is to pass the dog. And as a one or two dog handler, as an amateur, you better damn sure know what you need. I mean, I should be able to ask you, hey, which way does Preacher turn? You should be able to tell me, like instantly, because it's one dog. I mean, you should, as a good handler, and like Dave said, a good handler is a student of the game, of the game. And Dave is a good handler. He's a student of the game. He's getting better and better all the time. And we're all students of the game. And the more line time you can get, the better off you are. But you have to be, you cannot be a spectator when you're running your dog. You have to be engaged. You have to be involved, and you have to watch them. Don't be, ooh, look at my dog running. He's so great. I mean, nobody cares. And so as a handler, you need to, watch your dog and be engaged.
I got another good one here that we talked about a good bit too, is, why we see so many women handlers that are such good handlers, and you see how calm they are. Where, like we were talking about earlier with a lot of guys, where, get jerky with with our cast, and we get fast and all, and just a woman's demeanor just is always calmer. That's how women, technically are, and that's why I think they make such great handlers, is just that calmness that they get on the line. It makes them in tune so much better with them.
Well, I think touching on that too, Rhett. I think a lot of it is women can come into the sport as they don't have that ego. They just really truly want to learn, and a lot of them don't have that ego. So you can actually teach them, and they'll listen to you. And where a man's like, oh, I got it. A man's like, okay, I got it. No, you don't. So you're gonna go blow up, have fun. I mean, that's the worst thing ever. Oh, I got it. That okay. So we'll see you tomorrow when you don't pass. But yeah, it's the ego. I think the female handlers, I think they have a little less ego when it comes to all that stuff.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah. Dave, what do you think?
Well, I agree with the doctor, of course, but I don't know if this is the right time or not, but folks, if you get the invite, in all seriousness, if you get the invite to join a pros training group or a day training, you got to realize that he's given up his time and possibly a client's time to spend time with you or to show you what you're doing. It is in your very best interest to bring out a notebook. Nobody there that is seriously training dogs are going to want to talk about football, baseball, what happened last night. Thank God we're done with Colorado's quarterback not getting drafted. So tired of hearing that.
Oh, he got drafted in the 5th round.
Well, anyway. No, what I'm saying is but just respect the pro that's giving you his time and get engaged and offer to hang birds, sit behind him, watch. Pros aren't, if a pro is making a big example of when they correct a dog, probably would look for a different mentor. I'm going to float his ego a little bit, but wow. I'm seriously staring at his butt for 8 hours when I'm over here training because of how slight the corrections are. You have to watch Chris's hand, and every once in a while you'll see an instrument. And when you see those fingers start tapping a little bit, make note of that because he doesn't, he's not a transmitter raised up to the sky like Zeus bringing down the lightning. It is very subtle. And if you're not paying attention to when he's running or how he's running that dog, you won't know that dog was corrected.
That is true. He asks me all the time. Did you correct that dog? I'm real, I don't hold my, sit down. I don't do that. I just, it's real subtle. And he's constantly asked me if I gave him, and I'll tell him, yep, I gave him a high 1. I gave him a medium 2. I mean, we talk about that all the time. And we talk about why the correction, we gave the correction and what factor, whatever. We talk about the reason for the correction. So as a good handler, he's engaged. He's not even running his dog, but he's engaged in what's happening and he's learning. And that's one thing we take pride on ourselves. I know Rhett does, Chris does, I do, everybody does, Eric does. There's nothing worse to me, I think, that when you have a training day, you have your amateur people there. Tiffy will be here tomorrow. Dave's here. Isaac will be here. I don't put those people out in the field. I don't like them in the field. I don't like them working in the field. I don't like them throwing birds. A lot of pros out there put their clients and their friends in the field for cheap labor because they don't want to spend the money on the labor. I don't like them out there because you can't learn anything. You can't learn anything out there throwing birds, sitting and hiding behind a holding blind on Facebook. So as a handler, amateur and or pro, be at the line, be engaged, and watch. I think you can learn so much from just watching and asking questions.
So, yeah, if you get the opportunity to ever day train or become a regular, don't stand around. If there's work to be done, help, pick up, put out, place, ask what you can do, but then watch the dogs. It's like going to a wrestling match. You're watching 20 kids wrestle, but each one of them is going to wrestle different, and that's where you're going to learn. Pick stuff up at.
Yeah. What Elliott, as an amateur, what is your biggest nerve going up into a test at the line? What is your biggest concern going to the line? And Dave, what is your biggest concern? I want to hear from both of you, and we'll see if that's that concern is really something you really need to worry about.
Well, for me, a little before that is there's all sorts of basics of handling as a first-time amateur that I had no idea about. Just little things like where my feet are supposed to be on the line. I know the first time I came out and worked with you, Chris, you changed a ton of things, just how I had my feet set, when to raise your hand, when not to raise your hand. There's a lot of mechanical stuff that it's a big entry to get to learn as a first-time amateur, because I don't know if that stuff's out there somewhere, but everyone you're with just thinks everyone knows this stuff. And you're like, oh, I put my hand over the dog's head. When do I do that? Oh, I'm standing with the wrong foot forward. There's a bunch of that kind of stuff that all you guys, it's so normal to you that you don't even think about. That for me, my first dog I've ever hunt tested, I had absolutely no clue about. The first time I went to the KCHRC hunt test group, and I think about myself, they were talking about cheating the bank, or they were talking about, I don't know, it was something. I had some basic term. I had no idea what they were even talking about. And so there's a lot of that kind of stuff. But I'd say for me, the line is my nervousness. I know that I am putting my energy into this high-powered dog because I know that the hunt test, the whole surroundings about it, get him jacked up and everything. But I also know that she feeds off my energy that's there to hunt test that is not there at a training day.
But what makes you nervous? What are you nervous about?
Well, for me, it's like the World Series. I mean, a hunt test for me, I've been to 13 hunt tests. She's passed 12 out of the 13. And, you know, you say that that people aren't judging you when you're up there. But if we're being honest, you do look at someone and think, oh, they look like they have some competence. Oh, that guy's acting like a fool. I mean, you are thinking those thoughts. I mean,
no, I'm not. No, we're not.
Well,
you know why
you may not be consciously thinking about it, but it's whenever you watch.
You know why Rhett and I aren't thinking that? Because we're going to that truck to get our next dog.
Well,
we're not even
anyone
watching.
that is viewing, it is human nature when you view another human to make assess.
We're not watching you.
Anyone that is watching, okay. So when I go up to Flatliner Kennels and I'm in training and everyone's watching, now it may not be like a judgmental thing where they're consciously thinking these things, what a fool, but we assess other humans. That's just what we do. It's part of our social nature. And so, you know, as an amateur coming in with a bunch of pros, you don't want to look like a fool, and that does play into it. And you want to seem at least like, oh, you know, that is mildly competent. And it is like a Super Bowl or a World Series. You know, I'm going to run 3 or 4 hunt tests the whole year, the entire year. That's what I'm running. And so, like, those events are, everything builds up to them. It's not just an everyday. It's like the event. It's a huge, big event. And then, you know, with my dog, her behavior isn't quite what it should be on the line. You know, I mean, to put up mildly, she's a lot of dog and everything. And so it's just the nervousness is just a lot. And so that's my whole, once she gets off the line, I feel good and happy. But it's from holding blind to line, to me, is everything that stresses me. And I think a lot of amateurs out. All of the procedures, all of the, you know, thinking. Once she's off, it's fun and easy.
So do you feel like you're not prepared when you go to the line? Is that your fear? That y'all haven't done enough leading up to it?
Well, my fear is that she's going to be a little too vocal. She's going to creep a little bit. She's not, she does a little more the vocalizations. It's not completely over the top, but it's definitely higher than anyone would want. And then we started doing AKC, so now she's creeping a little bit. She's coming back, chomping birds a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of issues that go around it, but I'm nervous about all of that stuff. And just the procedural stuff. There's so many, like, I've only done 13 hunt tests. There's so many, I've got to go in through my mind. Okay, do this, then take the collar off here. And then go, and if it's HRC, then do this with the gun. And then say, there's like a whole litany of things I have to do that if I forget, make sure and turn it off, you know, that I'm in trouble. So I'll go through like 7 or 8 times. I'll go through that in my mind, like do this. And so that's just, that part is stressful.
I think what it would help, and Rhett can jump in on this, and Dave too. What I see a lot of times with young pros or amateurs or whoever, what I don't see, I'll put it this way. What I don't see from good handlers, what I don't see them do is go through the motions. And what I mean by that is that the old saying, practice makes perfect. That's BS. Perfect practice makes perfect. And you can never get perfection, but if you don't strive for perfection, you're never going to get it. So when you're training, the number of dogs Rhett and I train, and Dave owns like 35 of the damn thing. He's got a dog collection. He's got a pile of them. But when you're training, you should be training like you run a test. You have that body, the muscle memory. You have so like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, all the greats. They relentlessly practice, and they broke it down. They jump shots and free throws and blah blah blah. They didn't dunk all the time. They broke it down. So as a handler training, I think if you walk to the line nicely, you sit at the line, be smooth, take your time, count to 5. You do all these things, and when you get to a test and you get rattled as a handler, you don't get rattled as bad because your muscle memory that you have and your practice skills that you've developed will override that. You know what I'm saying? And it's not a big deal. Now, if you just if you're just training going through the motions and you're just like, let's just get this done today, screw it. Well, hold on now. Your last dog that you run should get as much effort as the first dog you run. And as a handler, if you stay engaged for the entire training session and you practice your routine and go through, then it comes second nature when you get to a test. When the wheels start falling off, it ain't that big of a deal. You just deal with it, handle it, and go. If you don't practice like that, Dave, right, and Rhett, right, it goes to shit quick, and you're done. You're done. You're done. I've seen some pros out there that I've seen some guys run HRC tests, and I'm not going to name names. I know exactly what I'm thinking about. I've seen that person and run their first dog and go to hell. The next 11 are out. They cannot deal with that one dog. They can't put it in their mind. They can't put it away. They can't get it out of their mind because they don't know how to deal with that stress. And I think that's as a handler, I think the way you practice is the way you're going to run. I really think that.
Well, and David talked about having a cadence where it's the same every time. I've not done that, and I'm thinking, why have I not done that? Why is it sometimes she gets to come out of the kennel when she wants, and sometimes I make her wait? Kristen, you and I talked last year after I was up there about fundamentally changing some relationship things, which I've been working on, but it's a lot of that small stuff that just makes such a big difference. Like just having a routine and cadence in training, not just in training, but like I come through doors before she does. It's just like all these little things that I think really add up to how your dog behaves itself.
100%. Rhett, what do you think?
I was just thinking about something that me and you and Aiken had talked about, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but every time I was coming out to pre-training, my dogs weren't seeing mark, and I'm pre-training for the Grand specifically. Where my dogs weren't seeing the marks, I was just kind of struggling with a lot of the stuff every time we were coming out, and I can't remember what Grand it was we were at, but like, man, your dogs are looking good. And then I had a pretty good Grand and all, and Aiken asked me, he's like, well, what did you do different? I was like, I don't know, like I just started training to make the dogs look better in pre-training, and now they're passing more. And I mean, literally, like that was my mindset, was how do I make my dogs do better?
Keep up.
Right. How do I keep up with this? How do I get them seeing the marks better? And that, however that you bring, however you bring that out to envision it, I changed my routine to get to satisfy my goals is what I had to do. And I don't even know the right way to put it, but do you remember that conversation? When
I remember when you first, and this is no dig against you, Rhett. I love you like a brother. But I remember when you first started training with Chris and I, our setups are pretty damn hard.
Yeah, extremely hard. Right.
I mean, they're pretty damn hard, and you're like, I was running single. Screw this. I ain't doing this shit. Not doing it. And I think the point you're getting at is Chris and I setups are really hard. And they have been since we've known each other. But I think what you're getting at is when you start training with our group, you're like, holy, I got to get better.
Yeah, right.
And so your routine got better. You got better as a handler to kind of keep up with the training group, which in hindsight was a great way to get better at a test. Because you were starting to train and handle to keep up with the group, and you got better and better and better, and now you're great at it. And I think that what people don't understand, they're like, when they look at a hard training set, they're like, oh, I'm not doing that. That's too hard. That's over my head. Well, just try it. You don't know. And maybe you'll try it harder as a handler. You'll try harder as a handler and you'll get better.
Yeah.
Dave?
I have had my lunch eaten several times, but it always does make you a better handler. And
it should.
It makes your dogs better.
It should. Some people just pack up their stuff and like, I'm going home. I'm done. and they're never going to get better. You dig in. You dig in.
One of my major faults used to be is on a tough setup, I thought it was you had to get tough on the dog. And I've learned that it's keep them dogs relaxed. Pressure's not the answer. Corrections aren't the answer. Work through it. Attrition is your best friend. And it's helped me grow quite a bit.
And I think as a handler, Rhett, you could probably chime in on this too. A lot of times people, like Dave just said, I didn't think about that. That's a great point. When like tomorrow's set, it's gonna be a bitch tomorrow. We're gonna have next couple days are gonna be tough.
I'm out.
Yeah. See, he's already
He's full.
But I think what were we talking? Where was I going with this? This was a great point. I forget about it now. But
Attrition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So a lot of people look at a hard setup, right? And so they want to put pressure on the dog. Like they want to put pressure on the dog in a hard setup. And that's honestly the exact opposite you should do, right? And Rhett is the genius of this one. And a hard setup, I think you need to be a little bit lax on the dog and let the dog be confident and run free and let them think. If you are overly hard on the dog in a hard setup, all they look out there, all they see is pressure. They see anxiety, they see pressure, and they don't know where they're going to go. They're just running around, and their decisions aren't made out of a very well-trained dog decision. They're made out of fear. And I think as a handler, you back off on the dog. Now, you want good line manners. You want all the walk the line. You want all those things. But when you run a really tough technical setup, I think you need to back off on the expectations of the dog and let them figure it out themselves, and or help or repeat. I think if you start adding a bunch of pressure, these dogs look out on a hard technical setup and they're already defeated because you don't ever let them grow up. Right?
Yeah, and that's what I think what I was getting at earlier with what I was talking about. I was trying to find a way to make every dog on my truck successful in our pre-training, and that way the success would bleed over into the following week. I didn't want to go in and have my dogs beat up, not be able to think freely. I wanted them to be able to go in and do these setups and not be stressed out, because I saw myself, losing some dogs that, I just felt like they weren't mentally prepared going into pre-training, for what we were about to do. And then they get super stressed out and you see them fall apart in the first or second series, at the Grand, where, when I was able to get these dogs coming in, confidently, being able to do these, big march, being able to see these birds that are coming out of nowhere, see the stress level go down with that dog and see their success go up because there was less anxiety, less stress on them.
Yeah. I think too, those dogs have got, and those dogs in those tight, in those hard marking setups, so those hard tests, you have to have a dog that wants to see the bird.
Have to.
Like they have to look out there and you need to have a dog that wants to see the bird. And dogs that are overly mentally stressed out don't want to see the bird.
Exactly.
They're like, this is too much. I don't even want to look out there. So as a handler, you need to recognize if your dog is mentally stressed out because you're trying to keep up with everybody. And as a handler, if you're training with a group that has a really hard setup, and your dog's not ready for that, don't just go, we'll just give it a shot. We'll just try it. Don't do that. Don't do that. You need to break it down and do what your dog's capable of doing. If you need to run singles, run singles. If you need to run triple, don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Just we'll just try it. That's an amateur thought. And I tell Tiffany and Dave and everybody I tell, it's like, I should have T-shirts made. I always tell it. This is not a dig against amateurs by no means. I always say, don't think like an amateur. I say it all the time. Don't think like an amateur. Think like a good pro. Think like a dog person, and you're going to be better. If you are always thinking like an amateur, you're holding yourself back. You're holding yourself back. Rhett's laughing. Rhett, don't think like an amateur.
I just had a million things where you said that where that line before that just flashed in my head, but I can't bring most of it up. So people's pictures came in my head. The think like an amateur. Yeah. Dave, you weren't
around
lying,
the
I
line.
promise. I know
David?
Grant popped up in my mind at least once just then.
Poor Grant.
Yeah, maybe Lawton too, but
but no, that's, and I think the biggest thing about it, as far as a good handler, is just be engaged and think about it. Think about what your setup is going to do. And I think, you see a lot of those trainers out there that run 2-3 setups a day. I don't think that's very necessary, to be quite honest with you. I think, 1 or 2 good ones a day, but make them good ones. I mean, as a handler, really think about your setup and what each mark does influences how the other mark, how the blinds influence. And Dave, and we always have this conversation when we do the setup. Dave is a little bit of a control freak, and I know it's hard to fathom, but he is. Anyway, but he sees blinds first. He sees blinds first. I see marks first. So and when we're trying to set up stuff, he always sees the blind, and I always see the marks, and we feed off of each other when we build our setups up because of that. So I think being a student of the game is the key. Dave?
I have yet to get one of Chris's setups right. I'll be like, okay, so we're throwing that right to left. He goes, why? Why would we do that?
I do it all the time.
He goes, we're throwing it left to right, Dave. Left to right. I'm like, God damn it. Strike one.
We do it all the time. So when I set up a setup, I always have something in mind I kind of want to work on, or multiple things I want to work on. But when I set my setup up, I don't tell him why I'm doing it. And I set it all up, and then now Tanner's working for us now and doing a great job for us, and I do it to him too. And I will look at it and say, why am I doing this? So the wind's blowing this way, then Mark's doing this, and the blinds are doing this. Why are we doing this? Give me the reason. And they don't ever come up with it, because I always try to tell them, you need to quit thinking like a human being. Think like a dog. What gets the most out of your dog in this setup? Why would I do this, or why would I do that? Because you have to think like a dog. And I think that comes from years and years and years of training them and being around them. But I think if a handler starts thinking like a dog and not, getting their expectations lowered like a human beings, but think like a dog, and I think you'll be a lot better off. I really do. And we do it all the time. We do it all the time.
And the influence that the setup puts on the dog is, it's a learning setup. I mean, that was kind of vague, but just the behind the gun blind at the right time with the right wind, and the 2 marks going left to right, one going right to left, is drawing them into another factor. What'd you call it? A danger spot, or
I don't know.
Danger area?
I don't know.
Anyway, we had a blind going up between 2 berms where there was a highway between the berms. Didn't register in my mind. The dogs were going to shoot left.
It's the trap. It's
the trap.
It's the trap.
So all that's becoming a little bit more visible, and constantly learning.
And as a handler at a test, and Rhett can vouch for this, I mean, we run them all the time. Most people don't even watch. Like, oh, I didn't know my dog was going to do that. The last 30 damn dogs did it. Why? You think your dog's better? You haven't fucking been paying attention. You can edit that out, sorry. Now I'm rambling. Damn it. But so, if you actually watch the dogs run, or in training, and there's a trap in there, or there's multiple traps, and the judges are setting it up to trap you. And if you after watching 30 dogs run, or 30 dogs have ran, and you go, oh, I didn't know they were going to do that, you haven't been watching. Get off Facebook, quit checking in, and watch, and you'll know the trap is coming. And that's what people don't see, that trap, because they don't pay attention.
Yep. Do
we have anything else we want to talk about? Dave's got a
Anything in
whole
your
list.
notes?
Look,
Dave, anything else in your notes?
this is his notes.
Yeah.
Let's read Dave's notes.
Oh dear God, let's
read Dave's notes. Here we go. Dave Marsteller time. Here we go. These are good.
Slide the camera over.
Okay. On Dave? There we go.
Whichever.
Read Dave's notes. Let's see here. Hang on.
I got an explanation for all of them.
Yep, let's do it. This is good. How to grow as a handler and team member. Handler downfalls. How can a handler help at marking and reading a blind at a test? How to develop a dog handler. Video steps.
That was Jeff's.
Okay, that's the so protect your line. And this is actually a really good one. What I mean by that, I say that all the time in training, is let's just say the wind's blowing right to left. Really hard on a blind retrieve. So you dictate where the dog is going on a blind retrieve. The wind's blowing right to left. What I mean by protect your line is if the wind's blowing right to left, don't get left of the line. Protect that right side. Stay on the right side of that line because that's where you're gonna have your most success. If you get on that left side of that line, you're already losing that battle, right? That makes sense, Rhett?
Oh, yeah.
I'm constantly saying protect that line. That means stay on the right side of it or the left side, whichever the factor is. So protect that line.
And consider what direction your dog turns, like we talked earlier.
Correct.
You know,
Yeah, all that has to go through your head.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
important.
and he says and then the next one is slow down, handle a fast dog slow to a slow dog fast. Then that's pretty good, especially if you've got a really fast dog. Slow way down because faster isn't always better. Read the wind, stay engaged, not a spectator sport. Watch the dog's head and shoulders on the dog. Trust the dog, do not think for the dog. So, and jump in here, Dave, if I get these wrong, but trust the dog. So if you have put all your work in, you put all the time in on your dog, and your dog has tendencies, good and or bad, when you're running that test, trust your dog. Trust it. Like, hey, I taught that dog to swim past a point. It's going to swim past this point, and trust the dog. Now, when the dog does something different, then you get engaged. Am I right?
That was 100%. That first test of the year, Southern Colorado, snowy, cold, miserable weekend. Great group of guys down there. But we had a meaty 100-yarder water blind, and I got a decent dog up and coming named Ray, and I tweaked her exit from the water, and she didn't take it. So
you gotta understand something. It was a 100-yard swim in snow.
Yeah, it was
cold.
80-some yards over a point. I tried to tweak her exit to the point, and it cost me a cast refusal, and then she skirted around the point. If I would have just let her roll, a good judge and a mentor from FLK, guy that learned a lot from Chris as well, Dr. Jim McLaughlin, he videotaped me, and boy, did I lose a chunk of ass after that run. He's like, Dave, why didn't you let her roll? So trust your dog. You put the training into him. I could have stopped her on land and gave her a better cast, and instead I skirted the point, and I got that miracle cast into a strong wind. So that was definitely spot on, Chris, with trust your dog.
Yeah, trust him. Do not make the decision for the dog. Correct the dog after it's committed. So that's a training one. Do not make the decision for the dog. Correct after the dog is committed. So this is a training deal here, and we're constantly talking about this. Is too many people want, and Rhett, chime in, please. Too many people, when they run a blind retrieve or whatever they're doing, they don't ever let their dog get into harm's way. They don't ever let the dog make a decision. So these people that are overly handling their dog, like, tweet, 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 in training, that dog is just taking your cast, and you're telling it where to go. You're not teaching the dog anything. You're developing a robot. They're just running where you tell them to go. You're not teaching them anything. And for instance, let's just say you are doing on and off a point, and you want the dog to carry that off that point down the shore. So that's a tough concept. So too many people are letting their dog get up on the point, blow the whistle, then cast it back in the water. And now you have a dog that can't think for itself, because every time it gets on a point or gets on land in a blind, they're going to pop. They're going to stop. They're going to wait for direction, right? So let that dog get on the point, and then let it get off the point on its own. As long as it's going in the same general vicinity, let it get off that point on its own. Then if it hooks to the bank, then you get involved and teach it what you want. Don't make that dog do everything you want it to do. That dog has to think through it. So when the dog reacts, you react. Dog reacts, you react. And that's the only way you're going to teach a dog to do anything. Does that make sense? Rhett, what is your points on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously that's a big thing I see in myself and a lot of other people. A lot of times when a dog is in a decision point, our first instinct is to stop the dog and handle them, and that kills their confidence. Whether they're going to make the right decision or the wrong decision, when you stop them at a decision point, then what you notice is you start getting popping and indecisive stuff. So just like you said, that sometimes they have to be able to make that mistake, so you can go in and you can make a correction on it after they make the mistake. Let them commit to it first, and then be able to figure out, you and them together, how to get out of that mistake. That's more important than making them challenge that line perfectly. Feeding off of exactly what you said, Chris. But that really solidifies your being able to work together and have problem solving together.
Yeah, I see that a lot when we train, and Dave could jump in on this. So we train a lot of amateurs, and we have some good amateurs in our group, but nobody ever wants they don't put their dogs in a position to fail, and you have to put them in them weird positions, like get them really, really in tight to the point and teach them to cast away from the land. You have to put them in these really weird positions where they're going to fail, and then you have to teach them how to get out of those really hard spots. Like at a test, you're gonna get your dog into a spot that you're probably not going to recover from, especially if you don't ever let that dog get into that position in training and teach the dog how to get out of that spot. And too many people don't want to get their dog in that position because they don't want their dog to quote unquote fail the setup. There's no failing a setup. You're training. And too many people, they don't want to see their dog fail, so they don't ever let them get in that position and teach them, hey, that's a bad spot to be, but here's how you get out of that spot. You know what I mean? It's like when you're a kid, your mom says, don't touch that, it's hot. And okay, and she lets you touch it. You're like, okay, that's hot. Don't touch it again. And it's the same thing. So you have to have failure to succeed. That's all there is to it. And people need to, quit looking at it as you're trying to win the session or win the test. You just run your dog. Nobody cares. And one thing we as pros that are running a lot of dogs, we can see good handlers and we can see bad handlers real quick. And the good ones are fun to watch, And the bad ones, and it's funny to me, I see the same handlers in our region for the last 25 years. And there's some handlers in our region that have gotten really, really good. And there's some handlers in our region that are exactly the same they were 25 years ago. And that's their fault. They're not students.
I thought you weren't judging anybody.
After 25 years, Elliott, I see it. Touché. But after 25 years, here's the thing, Elliott. Here's the thing. Those guys never ask advice, or if they do ask advice and you give it to them, they don't take it. So I'm done watching it. I don't even watch it anymore. I'm done. But you notice a good handler, you see that pretty quick. But we're not going to go through this whole list because we're getting pretty long right now. But Rhett, anything else for Jeff and his handling and stuff?
A lot of. I'll just kind of go over some things that I see that are that people can improve on as far as handling. A lot of the times you see people that don't take their time lining their dog up on marks. A lot of times you see people come back, they get the bird from the dog looks out, picks where it wants to go, they just say its name and it runs out there, goes, gets it, brings it back, go to the next one. You got to take your time. the dog needs to pick up the bird that you want them to pick up. You need to give them the line that you want them to take to that mark. Even if they know where it is, you're still engaged in the setup. You're still engaged in them finding that bird. Don't just let the dog control everything. You work together as a team. No matter how confident your dog is in themselves. Now, I've made the mistake of not trusting my dog enough and pulling them off of a bird and screwing one up. I mean, we can all do that too, but you still need to work together and take your time lining your dog up. Don't just let them come back and ship them out. Take your time on
100%.
that. Yeah.
100%. And to expand on that, Rhett, and Dave can see it too. You see a lot of that in HRC.
Yeah.
Where
Oh,
you
yeah. For
grab the
sure.
bird, kick
Yeah.
them off, and I think the reason for that is sometimes HRC isn't quite as technical as AKC, but that right there is a person that's not a student of the game. They're just shooting their dog off and going for the best. And then when they get into the really hard, tight marking setups like an AKC Master, National, something like that, or Qual, they're done. Their dog has no idea where they're going because they're not a team like Rhett said. You're not controlling the dog. They're just running around where they want to go, and you're out. It doesn't
Yeah.
work. It's yeah.
Rhett, in your opinion, when you start pulling a duck out of a dog's mouth, or if you're an upland guy, one of those run and gun people with chucker, and the dog comes back and it's all about time, it's all about the second, and they just grab out there and they rip that bird out of that dog's mouth. In your prior bomb dog mentality training that you went through, would that cause a dog to become possessive, or would that start the freezing process?
The sticking.
Yeah, well, for sure. Taking the bird out too quick and letting them chomp on it and break. Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, there's no question about it.
So
Yeah, I mean,
right here on Dave's list, it says, do not pull the bird out of the dog's mouth and do not pull the bird across the dog's face once it releases the bird. 100%.
Yeah.
And Rhett and Dave, you're right. You start ripping that bird out, they're going to grab it. They're going to start sticking on it. That's just all there is to it. And you just got to hold the bird and let them drop it themselves and go. Yeah.
They got to come in here, he'll sit and give him a second to settle down and then get it.
Yeah, and then one thing, another thing too, I see some amateurs doing. This is all stuff popping in my head. They start throwing out 10 commands in 3 seconds. Here, heel, sit, good hold, good hold, good hold. I mean, what are you? The dog is not even listening. Good boy. The dog's 150 yards. Good boy. The dog. That is your nervous energy. The dog does not care. Does not care. Does not hear you. The dog is getting close. Here. Good boy. Hold. Sit. Here. Heel. Look out. Way out. I mean, they start throwing shit at this dog, and the dog has no idea what they're like. What are you doing? And all that's nervous energy. And Elliott raised his hand because when you first came out here, I didn't know dogs do that many commands. I mean,
yeah.
That's a whole.
You've been
paragraph.
on me pretty hard about it. Yeah.
I mean, this was a full conversation between you and Georgie. Georgie's like, "What are you talking about? I don't even know what you're saying."
Well, and then we go to AK. That thing, I was doing that, like sit when birds were being launched at HRC, and I overtalked her. Then we get to AKC, and I'm not saying anything, and now she's creeping.
Yeah. Well,
I just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah. But I mean, I think amateurs I think they throw out a ton of commands. I think that's because they have nervous energy and they have no place else to go with it. It just goes out. And I think you need to be calm and quiet because that way when you do need to communicate with your dog, they're not PTSD from the hold for 15 years. Hold, good hold. I mean, the dog's eating the damn bird. Like they have PTSD from too many commands. I think when your commands need to be very few and far between and only when needed.
Yeah, for sure.
What else?
About all I got.
That's all, Dave. I mean, let that mustache out. Let it talk.
No, Elliott, running back to your question about amateur and nervous energy, I still get nervous a lot. And a lot of it has to do with, did I prepare enough for it for the week? Am I going to read the factors correctly? Am I going to set my dog up for success when I put it on the line? Am I going to face it in a neutral position if I got 3 good marks, or am I going to face her towards that hard key memory bird? Wind. Am I going to slow down? Whistle discipline. You get nervous up there, you blow your whistle like it's, you're at 20 yards and you think you're at 200 yards. Take your time on casting. And this might be one of those things that don't matter, but as a judge, I feel that sometimes people are watching, and if my dogs look like crap, and I throw a tough test the next day, or I threw a tough test on Saturday and I'm running Sunday and my dogs blow up, you just got to wonder, are people like, oh, he can throw a hammer, but his dogs can't perform when the hammer's down type thing. But other than that, yeah, it's just nervous energy. But once you and I put our hands on as many dogs as Chris and Rhett, we'll be just fine.
Wow. Yeah,
I'll be dead.
Never happen.
End, so.
Yeah, that would never happen.
I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Gosh. That's something.
I think that this has been a good discussion. It's been kind of rambly, but it's been a good discussion. I think
that's been
when
great.
When I see a good handler, I see somebody that's confident in their dog's ability, and they're smooth, and they're thought out, and they ask questions, and they pay attention to the dog. They stay engaged the entire time. From the time the lead comes off, the time they get to the line, the time they leave the line, the time they get to the truck, they take the dog out of the truck. I think a good handler exudes all of that. They're very deliberate. They're very methodical, and they think. They're thinking, not just going through the motions. And then I always hate when people say, "Oh, my dog lied to me." No, it didn't. Dogs don't lie. They will tell you something if you pay attention and you stay engaged. They will tell you exactly what they're going to do. Literally, they will tell you. Like if you pay attention to it. Like their lead change, they're telling you what they're doing. They want to switch on a mark. Well, that dog might have been coming back with the go bird and looked over at the mark they want to go to, and you're not paying attention. You're talking to the damn judge and telling how good you are, and you line the dog up on the bird that you want them to go to, and they go to the bird they want to go to. Well, that dog lied to me. No, it didn't. It looked at that bird when you're back there stroking your damn ego to the judges, and you didn't see it, and you didn't pay attention. And then they went to where they want to go. That happens all the damn time. All the time. But I don't have anything else. Dave, do you have anything else?
I don't. I'm good.
Wow.
Easy. I'm just
done
talking for the night.
I don't have anything else, Elliott.
Yeah, well, I think that was a great one. Rhett and Dave, thank you for joining us. I'm sure at some point we'll have you guys on again here. On those of you listening, remember, go over to Instagram if you have an account. Follow us over there and put up more questions over on the Facebook page. We always love having that, and we are keeping a updated list of all the questions, and we will be hitting them. So I think that's
Rhett,
it.
I got a great idea for a podcast.
Oh, yeah, what's that?
Me, you, and Blaine.
Oh, boy, that'd be a good one.
So Blaine Tarnecki, 86. He wants to talk about 86 bumper wagon wheel talk. He commented on our page.
We'll work on that. We can do it. We'll make it
by
happen.
the way, I've got to say that video that you sent. This is an advanced wagon wheel dog. I laugh. I can watch it right now. And that dog just takes off. I never laughed so hard in my life. That was great. Did you watch that, Elliott?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you gotta watch it.
Okay, I'll go check it out.
You've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
Rhett, from an amateur to a pro, how did you train that dog to ignore all those bumpers?
It's really not easy, but a lot of work went into that. So
it's unbelievable. I've never laughed so hard in my life. All right, I'm done. Rhett, me and Rhett are going to answer some questions on the next podcast.
All right. Enjoyed it, guys. Thank y'all.
Thanks for everybody. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Great to see you, Dave. Elliott.
We'll see you. Hey, Rhett, what do I say to get off here? What's my call sign? Do it.
I can't remember. I don't know.
See everybody at the line. Take
Gotta
care.
strike this chord with the humble hearts. Wearing heavy chains and blue collar scars. Inevitably they're gonna get the way. If it don't take that fight, take it to the grave.